Thanks. So our next speaker is Lois Rowlings, who's from Middlesex University, and she's going to be talking to us about supporting nursing students online.
Okay, are you seeing and hearing me? Yes,
we are. Thank you.
Check. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I'm Lois. I'm teaching. I'm talking this afternoon in my role as a support maths lecturer at Middlesex, but I do also teach a Year 1 algebra course at Birkbeck, and that may become obvious from some of the things I'm going to say. This is going to be about very low-tech, practical things to do. And one of our main sort of customers for support at Middlesex are nursing students. So I need to put a little bit of background on that because it is quite a different context from lecturing maths or service teaching maths that we've been hearing about. So first thing is there are a lot of students, nursing students in Middlesex. They come in these different streams depending on what kind of nurse or midwife they want to be. We support about 14 different modules. That's sort of across all 3 years of the courses. There is a new nursing curriculum being embedded. It's kind of into its 2nd year this year, but that means the poor nursing lecturers are, on top of everything else they've had to deal with this year, have had that to do. And it's a very high proportion of mature and commuter students. That is true across Middlesex, but particularly true within the nursing cohorts. And they are often quite anxious about maths. Often they haven't done any for quite a long time. And the point is that they have to do drug calculations. So they have to do this in practice. Sample question on your screen. They are all essentially ratio problems. None of you would have any trouble with these at all, but I promise you that the nurses do. It's probably fair to say that there's a wide range of confidence and competence among them. And obviously it is really important that they get this right in practice, that they give the patient the right amount, they put the right amount of liquid in a syringe or whatever. And because of that, quite rightly, there is a high stakes drug calculation test usually towards the end of their 2nd year, and they're not allowed calculators for that test. So that kind of adds to the anxiety. So what we used to do was typically slightly different in different groups. We'd do a 2-hour workshop with about 30 students in a classroom. We'd run about 2 or 3 workshops across the year for each module. But one of the complications we have is that those workshops get repeated at different times for different groups within the same module. So it is quite common that half a year group is out on placement while the other half is on campus. So there are a lot of repeats, and we don't see those students very often. We just see them 2 or 3 times a year. So when it became clear we were going to be online this year, we needed to negotiate with the nursing lecturers what we were going to do about that. And what we agreed, and this was actually also alongside my academic writing colleagues, because they support them as well, and sometimes we're doing sort of parallel sessions with them, that we would, instead of seeing students for 2 hours, we'd see them for 1 hour live with sort of pre and post work, and they would split essentially each group into 2. And the sort of rationale for that was, well, we would be putting in the same time commitment, and ideally so would the students. What I think I hadn't properly appreciated for that was, of course, we are now doubling the number of repeats. So for instance, for I think the Year 1 adult nursing cohort, we have got the same session that we need to repeat between me and my one colleague 16 times. And also what that means, and it's interesting listening to Colin about communication, we need really good communication and record keeping. So if we are sending some advanced work, we might have sent it for the first half of the year, and we might need to remind people that they're going to need it for the second half of the year. Just keeping track of what we've done and who we've told what has been a bit of an issue. We started using Kagyu and Neuro, but generally we and the students decided we like Zoom better, so we're using Zoom now. So what that means is that we set up a recurring meeting for each module. So one simplification is that we have one link for each module, and I always make my colleague an alternative host, so either of us can start the sessions. And one thing I am really pleased that we agreed is that we would have breaks between sessions. So if we do one session from 10 to 11, ideally the next group, and it will be the same group, a different group from the same module, will start at 11:30, possibly 15:15. So that takes away all the problems with waiting rooms and letting people in and everything. We can sort of stop one meeting and start the next. What did we do in the session? I'm slightly embarrassed to admit, after the Lightboard talk, we used PowerPoint. But an absolute revelation to me this year was that down the bottom of your PowerPoint slide, there is a pen. So, and I got people to invest in a Wacom tablet for me so I can write on the slides. And one thing I realized, of course, is that you just need to leave space for your working. So I've spent a lot of the year making my slides more sparse than they were before. And also, so I'm getting rid of that. And also, you keep the annotations stay while you're presenting. Some of you will know, but you do need to remember to discard them at the end if you're going to use those slides again. As I think most of us have discovered this year, students are much more likely to contribute to chat than talk. So I usually I'll set them a question, ask them to put answers in. Something I've learned over the year is also for them to try and indicate confusion. So I'd noticed they were typing in things like 10 milligrams question mark. So now I often just say, well, if you just don't know at all, just type a question mark and then I'll get a feel for the group. I think that I am better at waiting for answers doing that, and that I can pick up some errors. So that doesn't quite compensate from walking around the classroom, but it helps. And we also do sort of discussion because we chose smaller groups. They are more prepared to speak. And I've also used Zoom polls just because it's quite hard to keep track of who's answered. And that means I'm kind of putting a bit more pressure on everyone to have a go. As some of you will know, you can't specify correct answers. So that's quite nice, actually. There might be a little bit of peer instruction we could do on that. You can decide whether to share the results with your class. And again, things I've kind of learnt is keep the polls short because you have to scroll. And if there are too many, students seem to lose them. Keep the questions short. So I've had a couple of issues with students not being able to see the whole question. And so I've tried to do that. And again, something I've learned is to always have a slide with the questions and possibly the options, because there's always someone, or there's often someone who just can't see the poll or has lost connection in the middle. And also often say, in this example, I think you can see, okay, I can see half of you have finished, but I know you haven't all got the questions right, or all of the questions right. So you might want to check your answers while we're waiting for the others. And I can see Rachel's appeared, so I'm going to finish quickly. Next language year, I think the main thing on this slide is a question mark. We really don't know, but I think we will definitely keep some online provision, definitely tutorials, which I haven't had a chance to talk about just because of the nature of our students. And that freedom from room bookings is a real bonus. And I definitely want to improve communication with lectures and use of breakout rooms. So I know that's a personal failure on my part. I really haven't managed to make them work. And just quickly, I want to say thank you for listening, but also to Talmo and Sigma and maths colleagues everywhere, because I know that I wouldn't have got through this last year without your support and help.